Hey, welcome into With Him podcast. I am Raz. This is Dr. J, my co-host, and we are so privileged and so excited today to speak to a brother who's had a huge influence in a lot of different spaces. And this guy is a engineer by trade and a businessman and a legend in the golf industry. Today, we're really excited to have the executive chairman of PIng, John A. Solheim, in with us. And so we are so excited to have you here, John. Thanks for being here. We appreciate you.
Well, it's great to be here, and I love what you're doing.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Hey, one of the things, John, we love to do now. I know something that caught me is I first saw you on a video that you had done for Laterno, and I know that you were involved there. But I saw that video, and something that caught me was the same verse that Jamie and I talk about a lot, and we talk about it here at our church as well. It's Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. And you said for your dad that was the key verse. For you, that's been that way. And we love that because honestly, at churches, we're not a lot better at letting God actually be the one to have his way. And we just love that idea here of like, you know what, let's lean on Jesus. Let's ask him, what's happening. So that caught my attention. And I know go ahead.
Yeah, there's so many things that he does that it seems kind of crazy,
Yes.
And it's like Laterno. I mean, that it's been a wonderful school to me, but I only went there one semester.
Well, they appreciate that, I think. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, I went there my freshman year, and then I didn't get along with my roommates the best. They wanted the windows open, and I wanted the heat on like the rest of the dorm. And it just, little things kind of got me, and I decided to head home.
Right. Right.
It put a lasting memory in my mind, but I had no idea what the Lord's plan was. And
right.
I mean,
sure.
I went to ASU after that, and it was, back then you had ROTC, and it was also Vietnam time.
Oh yeah, right.
So, in my junior year, I decided, well, if I've got to have to go in the military, I want to go in as an officer.
Right.
And so I went to sign up for it. And the guy looked at my deal and he says, "You're missing a semester of marching. You don't have to sign."
Huh.
And I went to one of the best classes for handling people that there was, okay, in that one class, and that it taught me a lot. But the next semester, I dropped the class because I didn't have time for it. And 6 weeks later, I dropped out of school to run 2 shifts.
Right.
And it was, it's the Lord's intervention.
Right. Right.
But I really love Laterno's goals and what they are. I mean, they're a hands-on Christian engineering school, heavy in aviation, and it's been a joy to be on their board.
Yeah. Hey, John, I want to go back to, so did you come into faith as a child? Like really, like was your mom and dad following the Lord? How did you first come into faith where you began to follow Jesus?
Well, that's a hard one to say. I mean, I went forward at a Billy Graham thing, but my parents were true Christians, and they met in church, and I mean, it was really special. I mean, some of the things my mom said when Karsten entered the room, she heard a voice. "This is the man."
Oh wow! Oh, cool. All right.
It's just it's just amazing things. She was sitting in the choir at the time, and but.
Hey, John, were both of your parents born? Were they both born here? And I know you're Norwegian by background. Yeah, is that right? Is that what?
No, my dad my dad was born in Norway, came
Okay.
over when he was 2 years
I
old.
wondered about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And his, his father sent for his wife uh, and 2-year-old,
Gotcha. Okay.
and went through Ellis Island and then
Wow.
ended up over in Seattle.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
And
So your mom and dad, they
yeah,
obviously then they met here. Was that in California, or where'd they meet in church?
that was in Seattle
Up in Seattle.
church.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So that's cool. So she obviously had a deep walk with Jesus. If she's
Oh, she did.
hearing his voice, hearing the Lord's voice in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then where did you enter into this picture with your God story, John? At what point did
Well,
you make it your own faith and not your mom and dad's faith? Maybe is a good way to say
yeah, that,
it.
you know, uh, back in New York, so that was uh, second and third grade for me. We well, maybe I went to the Billy Graham later on, but the also at church camp, I accepted the Lord too,
Right. Right. Oh yeah.
and
Yep.
it just yeah, it's I don't have a really defining moment that, but you know, I just purely follow it. It's that
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's an interesting testimony, John. I have a very similar one. My parents were missionaries, believers. My dad was on staff at churches, and so my entire growing up was in a Christian context. And so sometimes it is hard to you don't have the testimony of some radical conversion. Sometimes the testimony of just almost waking up in the Lord is such a beautiful testimony in and of itself.
yeah,
Yeah, that's cool. One of the things now I know that one of the things we have is that's cool with the podcast that we do is we do have a lot of business people who've been on here. That's a really big deal to us, even though both of us are pastors. It's we recognize the kingdom of God in those spaces that we can't get into. And one of the things that we have quite a few of actually is where we've have family businesses, and that's a fascinating thing about you, your dad, your son. Tell us a little bit about that. Now I know, I mean, I've looked into you enough. I know that you started working in the business. What, you're 13, 14 years old, right? Started building putters for your dad, that kind of thing. There had to be challenges. I mean, that's what we recognize with our friends who have family business. Family business can be great, and it can be very challenging. Tell us about some of
oh
those
yeah.
challenges, John.
Well, there were a lot of challenges, and I mean, I started. When the company started, I was drilling the hole in the 1A putters for the shaft to go into. That was my job. My brother Alan was doing the grips, which were a 3-day process back then to put
Oh wow.
leather wrap on with multiple drying stages in between.
Oh yeah.
And the the only time I was away was when I was at Laterno, and I had a trunk load of putters that I drove around and sold putters to especially when I needed a little more cash,
That's
because I
good.
got to keep the funds that I collected.
Right.
But if they asked to be billed, then I didn't get to keep
Had
it.
to, had to turn that. It's a cash deal out of your trunk. I don't know. That sounds a little suspect, John.
Well,
That's good, man. I love that.
but the interesting thing there at Laterno, the close one at hand was uh, blanking out on the name of the golf course. It's Crest Crestfield or something like that. But I'd go there, and the pro there was named Bob Getz.
Uh-huh.
Well, Bob Getz was the first man to play our clubs on tour,
Oh, cool. Very cool.
and you know, we still have connections with him and his brothers today.
Oh,
And I
wow.
mean, after he left, and he ended up at one of the most prestigious clubs in Texas. Um, his brothers worked there and ran that place. So.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, one of the, for our non-golf fans, I'm going to throw in here that those early putters, those ping putter, the answers were some of the. I mean, that were revolutionary to golf. I mean, when I was a kid,
Yeah.
and I'm 60, so when I was a kid in the 80s, I had buddies who had those, and they actually made that ping sound like they talked about. But for those who aren't golf fans, those were revolutionary to the golf industry, the way they were balanced out. I think you guys came up with like the hosel design was different and all kinds of things that really hadn't been done with putters, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of story there because the 1As and the 2As, 3As, 4As weren't selling very well, and Karsten realized that you'd need different models and things. But they were a great putter because they had the heel toe weighting instead of all the mass behind the ball, and had the center of gravity very low, so that at impact, the vibration and the connection of the ball in the face caused it to get overspin.
Right.
And that if you don't have the ball skipping across the right afterwards, that's a great thing.
Yeah, right. Keep it rolling really true. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One thing that's cool, a lot of people would know as well that aren't golfers, golf fans would know this, but is the famed vault with the gold putters, and that was just cool. I think that's really cool. And for our listeners out there, what they did was you guys, when somebody had won, you guys made a putter for the player, and then you made one for yourself, correct? And then yeah, that's really cool. How'd that come about? Was that you or was that your dad? How'd that come about?
No, that was my dad, and I've got a story to go with that, but
okay.
My dad denied it, but I think it gave him the idea. But he decided, we weren't paying anybody, and I mean, we had a market share on tour of up to 70% at one time.
Wow!
Of the players were playing ping.
Yeah.
But then the competition started paying players to play their clubs, and that makes a little bit of a difference.
Sure.
But Karsten wanted, and I hope you don't mind me talking about my dad as Karsten.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
I had to do that all my life.
Sure.
He decided he wanted to do something to give to the player to commemorate their win with our putter.
Yeah.
So that's when he came up with the idea. But the story that goes with that I think what caused it is Karsten designed the cabinet for General Electric's first portable TV. And along with that, the rabbit ears antenna that mounted to the back of the set. The first antennas could mount to the back, and you could tune in because they were on ball joints instead of in a slot.
Right.
Okay. And General Electric decided they weren't going to build it, so they gave my dad the patent and told him, this is the company we want you to use.
Huh.
And so over dinner, he gave the patent to them. They figured they'd build 40,000 units. At the first million, they gave him a gold-plated set of rabbit ears antenna, and at the second million, gave him a second set.
Oh gosh. Okay.
So that's all he got out of it.
Right.
Said, if I come up with something again, I'm going to do it myself.
Oh my gosh. That's
but out of that, he also found his best friend who came to work for us, a guy by the name of John Kokon.
Okay.
And
cool.
Another tremendous person.
Right. That's really cool. Yeah.
John, let me ask you this question. I'm wondering about doing business with faith as a component, both for your dad, but then also for you. What would you say to the person that's wanting to really incorporate, they're in the marketplace, they're in a business, and they want to incorporate their faith into their business, what are some either principles or thoughts or ideas that you might give to that person about incorporating faith into their business?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so much to it, to a business, and you know, you it's real simple. You have to trust in the Lord. That's the way I do it.
Mm.
To help you make the decisions that you have to make, and it's amazing what happens, and it was interesting. Uh, we're trying to come up with a mission statement for PIng, and uh, me and Doug Hawkins, our president, another great Christian man, uh, we're working on it, and all of a sudden, Doug comes to me. He says, "You already wrote it." In the post of the Karsten Way magazine, you put it in there. To be the unquestioned leader in design, innovation, quality, and service.
Mm-hmm.
And we took that and and put another part in about looking after our employees
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that they have a way to meet their potential.
Mm-hmm.
That's not quite right, but yeah,
Right.
it's similar.
Right.
The and we went with that, but I mean, the nice thing is it's a constant reminder to me that all we have to do to be the unquestioned leader, and we have to research like all get out so that we're ahead, so we lead. We're not,
Yeah.
and then we have to do it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You hit on two things there, John, that they're really interesting. That I want to ask you about, because this is something that Jamie and I have been challenged in as well. Is I don't know why you would know this. You're a West Coast guy, but it's really interesting that here in our small city of Cincinnati, we actually have the largest at work on purpose with Jesus type of an organization. Faith-based businesses in the entire country. There's actually it's a group called At Work on Purpose, and it's huge here. And one of the things that a person challenged us to as pastors is he talked about changing the industry that you're in. If we're following Jesus and his creativity and who he is, that especially at these levels of what you began to talk about there, of loving people, of wanting what's the best, not just using your workers like chattel, but actually knowing that they're created in his image, and and he began to talk to us about that. And there are so few people, even businesses or even, again, within a church, where you think about, how do we change the entire industry to reflect the glory of God? And even for a lot of cases, and I would think in golf wouldn't be any different, even sort of the moral fiber of it and the way you do business. That's what it sounds like. The way you guys are even doing business is just industry changing.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
It's just we treat everybody the same. Our customers and things, and then we do special things. We don't. Um, I had a couple kids grow up across the street that are a little older than my boys. They both were West Pointers, and uh, I got a call from one of them one time, and he was in Cozumel, I think, and he said, "Our soldiers don't have anything to do. Could we
Right.
send him some golf clubs so they'd have something to do?" Well, I got a hold of Gary Hart, our tour rep, and I said, "Look, we can get the golf clubs, but they need more than that." So he got Titleist to donate balls and Wittick to donate nets they could hit into and mats. And we shipped this stuff to them.
That's
And
awesome.
it just looking after our soldiers is a big thing to us. And then at this, in I think it was 94, the Solheim Cup was at the Greenbrier, and a bunch of the LPGA gals went to Walter Reed Hospital to visit soldiers, and they were asked if they could take a couple putters to give to them, and we said sure. They came back and said we need more putters, and that connected us to the Wounded Warriors program, and that it's just amazing the way it worked, because we did this for years and kept growing the programs, and then a letter went out and went viral that a guy was playing with one of these wounded warriors, and the guy was a quiet guy and didn't want to talk a whole lot about it. But he had this bag that was a wounded warrior bag on it, and full of PIng clubs, and they talked a little bit, and then the guy wrote this letter, and it went viral multiple times. And it was during one of our weak periods in business. Okay, so it made people realize the type of company we were, and really helped us.
Right.
And
wow,
it just shows how the Lord works, and things aren't immediate. They're not. Sometimes they're immediate, sometimes it takes time and different factors to it. But it just, I still hear every once in a while about the letter. And,
wow, that is amazing.
So,
yeah, the Lord is good that way. It's surprising what He does.
Yeah.
John, I love that perspective. I just want to honor you. I love that perspective, because my guess is that many people would just be like, well, I'm just really smart. I'm just really creative. And here I'm hearing you say, no, I've been given this ability to think and to analyze, and I've been given an engineering mind by the creator of the universe, and He is happy to work through me.
Yeah. John, you said that, during a downtime, that letter kind of went out. Again, for business people that are on our podcast here, obviously, like any business that's running that type of length of time, you're going to have some places in there where you're like, oh, this is tight. We're not meeting our numbers, all that kind of thing. How can you tell us a little bit of time like that, and how you kind of came through that? Like a lot of our younger entrepreneurs in particular, like they've literally come to us and said, how do I become more resilient? How do I walk in more of a resilient faith? And, seeing where the company is now, obviously you've walked through some of those times where you've really needed to be resilient with the Lord. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Business has its ups and downs. And I mean, one of the tough times, really tough times, was when my dad was, in his later years, and he didn't want to change anything because of the fact that that was his designs.
Sure.
And we needed to make changes, and I couldn't get him to do it. And then so you're just struggling with it, and the business is sliding too, and you don't know. Well, a few years later, my dad passed away, and because of that, the value of the business went down, so the taxes weren't near what they would have been. So, and then, we were by that time already starting to move up. So it just, the Lord's timing of stuff, you don't know. What He has in mind. And, this downturn, had a reason for it, was so it could transfer into the next generation smoothly.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. See, that's just a whole perspective thing, isn't it? I mean, you're seeing it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And,
Yeah.
but, and then, I mean, my dad would not talk about, me taking over. He wouldn't talk about anything uh, that that had him not there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Gotcha. Yeah.
and that was pretty difficult. I tried talk, talking to him about moving into his office with him so we'd work together, and he wouldn't do that. And
Mm.
so finally at a board meeting, and it was a board meeting we had added three of the third generation into.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I told my dad I'd like to nominate him as chairman, and I'd like him to nominate me as president. We didn't have a chairman back then.
Mm.
All we had was a president.
Okay.
And him and my mom talked, and the it happened,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But
Mm-hmm.
so many things were in line at that meeting, uh, So
Huh.
it, and I'm the youngest of the boys, by quite a bit.
Okay.
Uh, so my oldest brother always felt that the oldest should take over, and
Yeah.
that wouldn't have worked.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but,
Wow, John, just that conversation right there, John, sounds like the Lord put that on your heart. I mean, for you to come up with that, like you guys didn't even have a chairman, but then you're like, this needs to happen. I mean,
yeah,
that transition sounds like it was very much the Lord.
yeah, it is. And,
And that's hard. Yeah.
yeah, with my son, I didn't want him to have to go through that.
Okay.
And I wanted to be ahead of things, not behind. And
Yeah.
it's working out really well because I'm doing what I want, which is more the mechanical side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Still, put my input in a lot of other things, but I try to let him run. And he always felt it'd be really tough working for me, and he discovered it's not.
That's good.
Yeah, we had a salesman named Billy Weir, and he's the one that found Bubba. He found him when he was 8 years old, and then when he was about 12, called me up and said it's my time to take over for him
Huh.
with him.
I'll be darned.
And so I did that, and just helped him out however we could, and it just really worked out well. And uh, Doug Hawkins, my president, would every so often give me a hard time about supporting Bubba, and
Yeah.
but Bubba sure paid it off, and
Right.
he's just a wonderful man, and and people. He's at times acts like he's a little dumb. He's not dumb at all. He's one of the smartest marketers there is.
Right.
And he's kind of in the same mold my dad was.
Uh-huh.
And that do things a little different.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I miss seeing him on the PGA tour. I do miss seeing him out there.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's okay. Bubba's a follower of Jesus. Yes.
No question there. No, Bubba's. I took it for granted you already included.
Yeah. 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 And I knew. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of Christians out on the tour, isn't there? I mean, their Bible study meeting that they have is pretty big, isn't it? That I understand.
Yeah.
What's one of the leadership principles? Just thinking about CEO and leading an organization like you've done so well. What are some main principles that you would share for leading for leading an organization with the Lord?
Well, you've got to build a team that you have trust in, and that that it's so much better if they're all Christians. It makes things so much smoother, and
Wow.
you don't have to question
Yeah.
what they're trying to get done.
Yeah. That's funny, John, because I've seen, even as you've been talking to us today, I can really see your affection for the different people you've talked about. Like, I can really see how you've honored them. Like, you taught this guy engineer, this sales guy, that's really good. That's really good, John. I appreciate that. That's a good word, to build a team that you can really trust. And, because the thing of walking with those who are also walking with Jesus, that kind of community really can build into, success. I mean, it is like what you said, you trust. You can trust one another in that. So that's really good. So, well, we don't want to hold you up too long, but I do want to tell you this, and for our listeners out there, is I actually never owned a Ping piece of equipment, but and I've never got fitted. But I do want to tell you this. The reason I want to tell you this is because I think it's just a good testimony for your company. Is here in Cincinnati, I went to Golf Galaxy and got fitted for my first time. I'm like, man, I want to be a better golfer, so I want to go get fitted. And I was probably there looking at, some TaylorMade or Callaway or whatever. And the guy that was there selling me, he checked out my swing, whatever. He said, you know what? I think you'd really like these Ping, these G430 irons. And and this is what he said, and it was really interesting to me. He said, these guys don't just throw out clubs every year. Like, sorry, other companies, maybe I shouldn't have mentioned other names, but he's like, they're not just throwing out clubs every year. When you're getting a Ping club, it's custom made. It's like custom made for you. Like, he said they do a really good job, really make them really well. And he put me in the G430s. I have whatever in my swing where the red dot ones. And they've been fantastic to me. And then my wife and son bought me the G430 driver. And I love my Ping clubs. I'm 60 years old and didn't start playing Pings till a couple of years ago. I wish I'd known more about you guys' story, but I just find it interesting that it was a manager there at Golf Galaxy said, we love working with Ping. And when you're getting this Ping club, he said, though, you're getting a really great product that's not just being thrown out there. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of encourage you in that, even out here in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
That guy knew the quality.
If you ever get out to Phoenix, let us put you through a fitting here.
Oh, that would be so fun. That's funny. My mom lives out there, so maybe I'll try to look you up on that, John. But we really appreciate your time. Do you have anything else, Jamie? Anyway, but we just appreciate your time, and you guys have built a fantastic business that I think has honored the Lord and even challenges us to think about this team building. It challenges me to think about how do you change an industry to glorify the Lord, So, but John, can Jamie and I pray for you and for Ping right now?
Sure.
Yeah, that would be great. Just go ahead and start, and I'll finish it.
Father, we thank you for our brother. I thank you for John. I thank you for the way you have uniquely created him, that you created him uniquely in his mother's womb with a brilliant mind to create great golf clubs and to just think so strategically. I thank you for my brother. And I thank you for this transition that he is continuing through from dad to himself, now to sons, and maybe even to the next generation as well. And so I just bless this company. We thank you for all that you have done and all that you are continuing to do. So we bless our brother. We thank you for it.
Well, again, I am Raz. This is Dr. Jamie Moore, and we have been on with, just blessed to be on with John A. Solheim, who has been over Ping for a long time and continues to be, and is showing us how to pass it on. And so I thank you guys for coming in, for looking in, for listening in. Appreciate you being here, and I pray that there's just some stuff here that John talked about that'll be challenging for you and really help you in whatever place where you're doing life with Jesus. Thank you guys. Bye.